A few days ago, I held a reading of a musical that I've been writing to get some constructive feedback, and the feedback that I got was really interesting because some of the things that I didn't expect to be good were actually really good, and some of the things that I thought were really good weren't actually really well liked by the audience. But all of that feedback was incredibly useful, and knowing how to receive that feedback has helped me a ton in making my work even better and how I will continue to rewrite my musical. So in this video, I will walk you through my process of receiving feedback as a musical theater writer, though it can be applied to any sort of creative endeavor that you're working on, and I hope you find it useful. My first step towards receiving feedback is evaluating who is giving me the feedback. Is it a friend? Is it a mentor? Is it a stranger? Is it a random person on the internet? Because who gives the feedback matters a lot. In his book Show Your Work, Austin Kleon explains the idea of how you want feedback from the people within your inner circle who you know you can trust and who you know care about you. And you want to be extra wary of anyone who falls outside of that inner circle. That doesn't exactly mean reject their feedback entirely, at least not yet. But you do want to make sure you're mindful of what does this person who is giving the feedback want from me? Do they actually want to help make my work better? Do they want to just put me down? Are they just some mean person on the internet? Because creative work can be incredibly personal, and it can feel very vulnerable to be receiving feedback for anything you've worked on. So you want to make sure that the people who you get feedback from are people who want to make your work better. Now, some people will be negative and will just want to put you down no matter what, and that is just part of life. There are some people in this world who unfortunately don't have the best of intentions for you or for anyone else, especially on the internet where those kind of comments can oftentimes be the comments that get the most likes or the most shares, or negativity can oftentimes spiral and go viral. But there are also some times where people on the internet can be useful, and that is also something you want to be mindful of. As a third-year university student, I took a creative writing course last year, and one thing that I learned about feedback is that it should always strive to be kind, honest, and respectful. It should never be mean or put you down. Now, kindness doesn't necessarily mean just someone saying, "Oh, your work is amazing," or "Oh, your work is the greatest thing ever," because there will always be better stuff, and it's not so much about how good your stuff is, so much as it is the person's intentions towards if they want to make your work better, or if they just want to feel like they're above you, pretty much. So for the musical that I've been workshopping, I've made sure to curate a group of people who I knew I could trust to be kind and respectful, and who I already had a personal connection with, so it's a lot easier in that regard, and who I know will also want to make my work better, and who care for me. After you've determined whose feedback to listen to, the next step is to ask yourself, is this feedback useful? Good feedback should usually be specific and actionable. Rarely is it vague or general. If someone were to tell me, "Hey Andrew, your musical is amazing," I mean, that's a nice compliment to me. I do appreciate a compliment, but it's not good in the sense of it doesn't tell me how I can improve my work. It doesn't tell me how exactly I can make it better. It's not actionable. On the other side, if someone were to tell me, "Hey Andrew, your musical sucks. Your musical is garbage," that's also not good feedback because by itself, it doesn't tell me how I can make it better. It doesn't tell me how I can improve, and essentially the purpose of feedback should be improvement. It should not be to validate your ego of being the greatest artist ever. It should not be to please everyone either, mind you, but it should be to make the work better. So if the feedback you're getting isn't very specific or isn't very clear on how you can act on it, you want to ask the person if you can, "So how can I improve on this? How can I make it better? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of, for example? What specific things about my work did you enjoy? What specific things did you not enjoy? What could be changed?" Asking questions like those is how you get the respondent to give you feedback that is a lot more specific. Because once you have specific feedback, you can act on it, and it's a lot more manageable. You want to think of your work as this large structure, and working to create that structure is a bunch of tiny building blocks that come together and add up to create something useful. If someone were to tell me, "Hey Andrew, your structure sucks," that doesn't tell me where I need to fix the problem. But if they tell me, hey, you might want to just adjust that part, or make this part a little more solid, and strengthen this area, this part's already good, you don't need to worry about that. That makes it a lot more actionable, and I know where to act on. My musical is made up of currently 18 scenes and 5 central characters plus a couple peripheral characters around. So if someone were to tell me, hey, this specific scene I really enjoyed, or this specific song I really enjoyed, I would be like, okay, that I know to keep that in and to leave it as it is. Whereas if someone were to tell me, hey, I think this character is a little unclear what she wants. Is she the kind of character who's bubbly and energetic? But then in this scene, she says a very cruel line, so I'm not sure if her personality is changing during the show or what's going on there. That tells me, oh, maybe I need to fix that inconsistency or use it intentionally. And that alludes to my third and final step, which is to create a plan to implement that feedback. There are a lot of different ways to go about this depending on the kind of work you do and also the kind of feedback you received. But I'm going to share a few tips for how I go about this process. If I can, I try to create a measurable way to track my progress towards implementing this feedback and quantifying it. For example, for my musical, in not last reading, but the reading before that, I got the feedback that there was a little too much seriousness and not enough comedy. So for my next round of rewrites, I decided I'm going to track each scene by scene, and mark it, is it more serious or is it more comedic? And I wanted to make sure there was never more than 2 serious scenes in a row. That way there's a nice balance between comedy and the more heavy-handed, emotional stuff. So that is how I tracked the tone of my piece from scene to scene to scene to scene. But this isn't always possible, but if you can, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of creative thinking, and as artists, we're obviously creative, so you can come up with different ways to see and track and measure how you're improving on the feedback that you received. Another form of feedback is having consistent accountability. For example, having a mentor or coach or even a friend check in. It holds you accountable to creating your best work and putting in your best effort every time, knowing that someone else will be seeing your thing, and knowing that they will be judging it, and also they will be judging it based on the criteria of the last round of feedbacks. That is incredibly useful for creating this positive social pressure, as I like to call it, towards making it better in the ways that the feedback suggested it could be better. After receiving a ton of feedback, it can also be useful to organize this feedback. After my last reading, I got a lot of different feedback for a lot of different things about my musical, but I just needed a way to create a list of the actionable things that I can do, and then one by one decide, okay, which is the next easiest thing I can work on, and easiest to implement towards the script, and then make that iteration. And then, alright, looking at this list, which is the next easiest, or which is the most impactful? So those are just a couple ways that I like to implement feedback. So to summarize this video, you want to be mindful of who you receive this feedback from. You want to reject any feedback that isn't specific or actionable. And lastly, you want to create a plan to implement this feedback to make your work even better. If you found this video to be useful, it would mean a lot to me if you could give me some feedback by leaving a comment and sharing your thoughts. What did you like about this video? What did you find useful? What did you think could be improved? Notice that I'm asking for specific things here, so it would mean a lot to me if you could do that. Thank you, and until next time.